Hello! In this video I'm going to be talking through my process with recording drums for Dismantle It. So to start off, I originally started recording drums with Elliot, and these are his drum takes with the track. Okay, so there's a lot of effects on these because I used this snippet of the hi-hats in the intro of the song during the I used this in the actual song. I didn't use his drum takes because if I turn this bus off, you'll be able to hear what they actually sound like. The main issue with Elliot's drum takes was that the end section of this song is interesting and it's hard to follow along to because my vocals are doing something faster than the main beat of the song. So we tried, this is take 9, take 12. I did attempt to comp these, but since this end section we couldn't get a good take of the end section, yeah, I couldn't really use these. And due to an issue that I had with this track, I wasn't able to give him a metronome to play to, because I don't really understand what happened, but somehow in the process of working on this song, you can usually, where is it? Well, first of all, let's see if the metronome does work, but in the mixer, you can't find the metronome track. So I wasn't able to give him a metronome whilst we were recording. So we decided to use a different drummer and go with Ollie. And I have comped these drums. I have them all in a group with editing selection on them, so everything I do to one track happens to the rest of these tracks and make comping a lot easier. But I listened through and I selected the snippets from each take that I felt were the best take and worked best for the song and blended them together to create a full drum take. So I'll play you his drums without any effects on them. I can still hear effects. Where are they coming from? Here. So without anything on them, it was a pretty good drum sound, so I was confident that I could shape these how I wanted and make them work with the track. To begin with all of the tracks, I listened through and I soloed them and I put on some EQ channels. Then I go and chuck these all back on and I'll show you what I did. EQ is usually my first step for taming any frequencies that I don't really want to hear. that's coming only in that ear, so I'll do this. So on the EQ for this track, I have the low rumble cut down here, a bit of presence added here, and a cut here. I did this by listening to what happens when I pull it up and identifying a ringing sound that was happening in the overhead. So by identifying where that frequency was sitting in the graph, I could use this cut here to make sure that no ringing happened. We bring these overheads in the mix. With the EQ. So it's just a bit brighter. A very similar, oh, didn't mean to do that. Very similar EQ to the other overhead, as they do sound mostly the same, except one of them is a bit sharper because it's over the cymbal. So that's where I started with these. Bring the snare in. I bring that back. I cut this low rumble here and I added a bit of a boost here to still bring in like a nice warm mid-tone. I listened to how the sound transformed when I pulled it up here, and I much preferred the cleaner sound with it pulled down here. I did originally have this on here, but it made it sound really flat, so instead I decided it probably needed a bit of a boost up here instead of a cut. For the hi-hats, if I turn these up. Yeah, I just felt that they needed to be a bit crispier and shine through the mix a little bit more, so I added a bit of a boost here and a boost here to give it a nice well-rounded tone. For the cymbals, I have a lot of cuts in this one, as there's a lot of ringing out frequencies that just are not really desirable. So it just shapes the sound nicer and adds the presence where you want it and muffles out the frequencies that you don't want. So next was compression. Some of these I have 2 rounds of compression. So for the first compressor, I have a vintage FET. In this process, I did learn a lot more about compressors and the specifics of what each knob does. This is the threshold of how much is allowed past the compressor, of when it starts recognizing the signal and compressing it. The ratio is how much goes through the compressor compared to how much comes out. The makeup determines how much more volume is added on afterwards. The knee is how aggressive if we turn it to the graph, if you can see this getting sharper as I turn that around. It's how aggressive the cutoff is and how smooth it is. The attack is, what's the word? Intensity isn't the right word. Like, the attack controls the initial hit of the beat. So if it's really slow, it adds less emphasis to the first hit of the beat, and if it's really fast, then it brings that emphasis in. And the release is how quickly the compressor returns to normal after compressing. So I put the compressors on to these, and I used similar ones for each. Some of them are different. I sort of first of all, I start with the threshold and I pull until it sounds like it's around the right volume and everything sounds like it's hitting it sort of around the same volume. And then I go through the effects and I adjust them until I like the sound, constantly checking back and listening to the whole kit together and the whole kit with the drums to make sure I'm not making any decisions with the kit that is not going to help. Yeah, so most of the compression on these are similar, but they all are have specifics for each track. Next, with the kit, if I go to the bus, I have another EQ, chroma verb, and another 2 EQs actually. I have this here to cut out some of that shrill frequency from the cymbals, because this is a very cymbal heavy song. It was hard to find a balance of enough cymbal crashing through and too much piercing in your ear. So I found that with this cut here and a little bit of a boost up here, I was sort of getting the best of both worlds with that. I found that the low end was a little bit lost in the kit, so I wanted to add a little bit of a boost here, and I dragged these down a bit just to shape the sound, make it a bit warmer. Chroma verb, I have the density and the size and the attack all the way up, the decay set to 7 seconds, distance at 12, because I didn't want it to feel like too far away and too spaced out. It's still in front of the kit. The dry is around 70% and the 30 is wet. Wet is 30, I mean. And then each individual track has their own bus settings that control how much reverb is going to the kit. I will show you the bus. B19, B19 drum bus. So that's without, with, and then with the rest of the track. I wanted the drums to feel kind of spacey and in the back of the track. I wanted them to bring the energy that I knew this end section needed, but I didn't want it to sound too live and too much like, I don't know, I didn't want it to sound too much like a real live kit in a live show. I wanted it to sound far away and muffled kind of in the track, but come in where it needs to and have that punch that brings the emotional level to the track. I also added a tambourine because I wanted a little tambourine. But yeah, if I go back to the comping process, because I feel like I kind of skimmed over that, I used this section of Elliot's takes. I did this because Ollie didn't do anything in the intro of the song, and I felt like I wanted something to show that drums were coming in, so it was a little bit less harsh when they all decided to come in. These are from his, this is just silence from his first take. When I was listening to the drums when he was recording them, I made mental note that the second to last take he did, he got the chorus perfect. And this is... I love the space he created with the cymbals and that the stronger crashes there. It just felt perfect for the track, so I definitely wanted to include this. And he also did a great job on the chorus in the second chorus in this take. And then building up to this section. This is actually from the first take he recorded for the first time listening and playing through the track. because there was another thing that he was doing, and I'll play that to you here, and I really liked the sound of this, and I really, really wanted to make it work, but during the comping process, I just struggled to get it to flow with the track the way it needed to. This is the other way he was doing it. I don't have track selection on for all of these. If I do that, then I will be able to make the changes to all of them. If I add these to a group, group 1, open group settings, editing selection, there we go. Now they will all do that. Now with the changes I've made to the volume in this process to show you how they sound, they don't sound exactly as they do with the track. So once I'm done talking through this process, I'm going to close out the project without saving and pull it up again and show you. If I solo the kit. So yeah, he was doing this really cool, like, I don't really know how to describe it because I'm not very good with drumming terms, but I really, really liked the sound of that, but I just couldn't get it to work with the track, so I had to swap back to the first take where he just carried on playing the same way that he was before that. This process was quite long and grueling, just trying to drag the areas and zoom in on certain bits that didn't sound right and just make sure that it all flowed well. But I think I did a good job, and this really familiarised myself with the process, so I am a lot more confident recording drums than I have been in the past. So I'm going to close out the project and open it again and show if it will actually close the project. That would be great. Don't save. See, that's Elliot's bit coming in there. I'm really happy with the drum sound. The last thing I have to go over is automation. I didn't have to do too much automation with this, just simply on the track stack, making the verse quieter, the chorus louder, quieter again for the verse, and louder in the end section. I found the first hit coming in to be quite intense, considering there weren't any drums prior to this except for the hi-hats. So I added this little peak down in the tracks that recorded the first note. So if I play this to you, if I turn off the volume, hopefully this will do what I want it to do. So yeah, it's a small difference, but I feel like it made the difference that I wanted it to in the track, and it was bothering me how intensely it came in at the start. These are just small adjustments of just a little step up by a couple dB in the chorus, and then another step up at the end for the last section, because I really wanted that section to be quite intense. So other than that, that is pretty much it for my drums in this track. So thank you for watching. Yeah.